Hello and welcome back to Greg's Game Room. Now today I want to talk about my top 12 perfect movies. Well, movies that I enjoy the most anyway. Now before I get into the 12, let me do a quick honorable mentions list for you. And that would include movies such as The Princess Bride, Highlander, The Road Warrior, The Thing, Alien, Dumb and Dumber. I know that's kind of a weird one to put on this list, but I really love that movie. Die Hard, Batman, Jurassic Park, and Ghostbusters. I really love all of those movies, but I can only narrow it down to 12. Alright, let's go ahead and get started with the 12. They are not in any particular order, except alphabetical. First of all is Aliens, the 1986 movie starring Sigourney Weaver, directed by James Cameron. I really love how this movie is set up with Ripley, who is totally distraught about her encounter with the alien 57 years earlier. She's a wrecked woman. She's just trying to get by at this point, and she has an opportunity to get over her fears and to redeem herself and certain members of the colony, in this case Newt. I really love the interaction between her and Newt and her and Hicks. A very strong maternal feeling that she has towards Newt, and she's going to do everything that she can to protect her from the aliens. And a lot of that is because, you know, her own daughter died in the time that she was in cryosleep. I think she's trying to find a way to redeem herself to her daughter. I mean, I love both Alien and Aliens, but if you put them two together right in front of me, I would go with Aliens, I think, just because it's more of a fun movie.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Alright, next on my list is going to be Back to the Future, of course. That's one of the seminal movies in my life. 1985, directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. Of course, in the story, Marty accidentally goes back in time and messes up his parents' meeting, which causes him to possibly not ever be born, and he has to fix that issue, that problem. Although there is one problem with Back to the Future, which you may or may not have noticed over the course of the years, is that Marty does not have a character arc. He's the same person at the end as he is at the beginning. Which is why, if you notice in the second and third movies, they gave Marty a character flaw. They made him upset when people called him chicken. And at the end of Back to the Future 3, he has overcome that character flaw. But he doesn't have a flaw in the original movie, which is a bit of a problem. But the movie is just too fun to leave off of this list. I love Back to the Future.
What about all that talk about screwing up future events, the space-time continuum?
Well, I figured, what the hell?
Next on my list is Groundhog Day, starring Bill Murray, directed by Harold Ramis. It's such a fun, lighthearted movie. You know, I have to watch it every year around Christmas time. I mean, I know it's not really a Christmas movie, but, you know, the snow and everything makes me think of Christmas. Of course, the main character, Phil Connors, gets stuck in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania in a time loop where Groundhog Day just keeps repeating over and over and over again, giving him an opportunity to better himself. That's the best thing about this movie, is that, you know, he goes through a lot of different phases between, you know, depression and wanting to kill himself and trying to take advantage of certain people in the movie. But the reality is, this is a great opportunity for him to better himself, and that's, I think, what he does over the course of this story. He starts off as kind of a jerk, but by the time the movie is over with, you can see where he has improved, and that's just a great story, a great feeling. And originally I had a hard time trying to figure out where does Act 3 start, but I think it's when he finally tries to make that last day absolutely perfect for everybody else. Not for him, but for everybody else.
Not bad, Mr. Connors. You say this is your first lesson?
Yes, but my father was a piano mover, so.
Alright, next movie is The Karate Kid. I love The Karate Kid. I could just watch this movie over and over again. Of course, it stars Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita, and it was directed by John Avildsen. Avildsen. I have a hard time pronouncing his name, but he's the same man who directed Rocky. Of course, in the movie, Daniel travels from Newark, New Jersey, I think it is, to Reseda, California, and he has a hard time adjusting. He's getting beat up by some of the high schoolers who know karate, so he realizes that, you know, he needs to defend himself, and that's when he meets Mr. Miyagi. And for me, the best part of The Karate Kid is not really, you know, the fighting and all that stuff. It's really those character moments between Daniel and Miyagi. It just warms my heart, really. And I always think of the lessons of Mr. Miyagi. Karate here, but karate's never here. It's never in your gut. It's always in your head and in your heart.
Hey, what kind of belt do you have?
Canvas. You like? J.C. Penney, 398.
No, I didn't mean a belt like that. I meant...
Okinawa belt mean no need rope, hold up pants.
The next movie on my list is going to be The Matrix, the original movie directed by the Wachowski brothers at the time, and starring Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, and Carrie-Anne Moss, and of course Hugo Weaving. In the movie, Neo wakes up from his dream world. He thought he was in the real world this entire time. Turns out he was just in a computer program, essentially. And he is told that he has the ability to reform that computer program. His synapses are so fast that he's able to reform it and do whatever he wants to in there. And Morpheus shows him the way and shows him that, you know, there's this war going on between the machines and the humans, and how important Neo is in order to defeat the machines and win the war. I mean, there's no question about it that this movie is one of the most incredible movies of the last, 50 years. Even if you were to take out the action scenes, which I wouldn't recommend doing because they're awesome, there is a very important message in The Matrix about choice and choosing to do what you know is right. No one can be told what they need to do. They only can feel it in their heart. You know, that's ultimately what The Matrix is about, knowing yourself.
Neo, sooner or later you're going to realize, just as I did, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path.
Next on the list of my perfect movies has got to be Raiders of the Lost Ark, starring Harrison Ford, Karen Allen, and directed by Steven Spielberg. Does it get any more perfect than Indiana Jones swinging on a vine, crawling through caves, trying to recover ancient artifacts, going on a hunt for the Lost Ark of the Covenant, trying to keep it away from the Nazis? You know, it's a fantastic movie, enjoyable from beginning to end. It's got a great villain in Belloc, probably the best villain in all of the Indiana Jones movies. Of course, it's got some really great action, culminating, in my opinion, with the truck chase, which is just absolutely perfect. The music is perfect, the action is perfect. Everything about that scene is just fantastic. It's absolutely perfect. Take a drink every time I say the word perfect. Of course, the character of Indiana Jones is one of the greatest of all time. It's fun, it's enjoyable. Who doesn't like to hang out with Indiana Jones and go on adventures?
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Asps. Very dangerous. You go first.
Alright, next movie on the list is gotta be RoboCop. That's another movie that I think fits exactly, perfectly in the 3-act structure. Starring Peter Weller and Nancy Allen, directed by Paul Verhoeven. If you haven't watched RoboCop in a while, you should really go back and watch it. Pay attention to that 3-act structure that I mentioned earlier. It really fits in perfectly with that. Of course, the movie is about Alex Murphy, who is injured in the line of duty, who later is reconstructed into RoboCop, and he begins to remember his past, and he decides to take it out on the people that turned him into RoboCop. RoboCop is one of those movies where all the scenes have to be there. None of the action scenes are unnecessary. It's all important to the story. And, you know, a lot of movies today, I feel, they just want to have some huge explosion set piece that really has no bearing on, you know, the actual movie itself. In RoboCop, those scenes have to be there. They're necessary. And who doesn't get a really great feeling at the end of that movie when the old man asks him, "What's your name, son?" And he turns to him and says, "Murphy."
What are your prime directives?
Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law.
That's good. That's very good.
Alright, next on my list is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, starring William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelley, the whole cast of Star Trek. Oh, and Ricardo Montalban. How could I forget? Khan himself, directed by Nicholas Meyer. I've always been a Star Trek fan. I love the original show. I love all the movies. And to this day, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan is always cited as the best of the movies. Well, why is that? It's not because of all of the slam-bam explosions and action that they have in it. There's really not a lot of that in there. It's not because of some huge fight sequence. Kirk and Khan never actually even meet with each other. No, it's because of the themes of growing old and the friendship between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. And let's be honest, is there a greater villain than Khan facing off against Kirk? I don't think so. Maybe the Gorn. And I really like how at the end of the movie where Kirk has finally come to terms with his age and reconciles with his son. I mean, that's really a great moment in his quarters when they reconnect.
Kirk to Spock. It's 2 hours. Are you ready?
Right on schedule, Admiral. Just give us your coordinates and we'll beam you aboard.
All right. I don't like to lose.
The next movie is Star Wars, the original Star Wars movie from 1977, starring Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and directed by George Lucas. Of course, in the movie, Luke Skywalker is called to action to defeat the Empire when he runs into a couple of droids by the name of R2-D2 and C-3PO. Then he meets Obi-Wan Kenobi, meets Han Solo, travels to the Death Star to rescue Princess Leia, goes back to the Rebel base, pilots an X-Wing in order to destroy the Death Star and save the galaxy. Of course, that's the movie in a nutshell. Now, I really feel that Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi are really necessary to watch together. You can't just watch one, you have to watch all three. Because when you think about it, those three movies are the epitome of the three-act structure. You got the original Star Wars as Act 1, it's the introduction. You've got Empire Strikes Back, which is where all the trials and the tribulations are, and it ends on a down note. And then you have Return of the Jedi, where the hero comes back and applies what he's learned and finally accomplishes his goal. But I feel that the original movie really fits into this mold a little bit easier than Empire and Jedi do. So, truthfully, Empire is probably my favorite of all of them. I just feel that Star Wars: A New Hope is the one that fits the best into this category of perfect movies.
We're right above you. Stand by.
Cream, that thing? You're braver than I thought.
Nice. Come on.
Next on my list is Superman from 1978, starring Christopher Reeve, Gene Hackman, Margot Kidder, and a cameo from Marlon Brando. And it was directed by Richard Donner. I say cameo by Marlon Brando. I just always thought it was funny that he got top billing over Christopher Reeve, and he's hardly in the movie. Anyway, in the movie, Jor-El sends his son to the planet Earth, and of course Kal-El crashes on Earth, and he is adopted by Jonathan and Martha Kent, who rename him Clark Kent. And the great thing about this is that Jonathan and Martha instill human values into Clark, who is essentially an alien, and he learns the value of humanity this way through growing up as a human. And this movie has one of the most amazing sequences of all time, and that is when Superman saves Lois from the helicopter that is hanging off the side of the Daily Planet. And of course, after this happens, Lex Luthor discovers Superman's existence and decides that he needs to get him out of the way in order for him to do his land deal thing. Who doesn't love Christopher Reeve as Superman? I mean, he's the best. He really is. He has the charisma, the smile, the warmth, the humor, and he also has a strength about him as well. I mean, that scene of him in Lex Luthor's lair, he's not going to give in to this guy. Christopher Reeve is and always will be the best Superman.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
You're going to end up fighting every elected official in this country.
Sure you don't really mean that, Lois?
I don't believe this.
Lois? I never lie.
Next on my list is The Terminator, starring Linda Hamilton, Michael Biehn, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, directed by James Cameron. In The Terminator, there is a future war going on, the robots versus humans. In the movie, the machines have developed a time machine, and they send a killer back in time to kill the mother of the general who defeats them. And of course, I'm talking about Sarah Connor. The Terminator goes back in time to try to kill her. The Resistance sends back Kyle Reese to try to protect her so that her unborn child, John Connor, can become the head of the Resistance that eventually defeats the machines. To me, that's just such an amazingly creative story. And it starts out with Sarah Connor. She's just kind of a waitress, kind of doing her thing. And then she meets Kyle after the Terminator tries to kill her. And he tells her about what's going to happen in the future. And over the course of this movie, again, just like a hero's journey, she changes from this little waitress girl into the really strong, tough Sarah Connor that you see at the end of the original Terminator, not Terminator 2. She's fighting against this Terminator, and she kills it in the press, of course. A really creative movie, great action, gritty. Whenever it's on, I have to watch it. It's a perfect movie.
Thank you, Sarah, for your courage through the dark years. I can't help you with what you must soon face, except to say that the future is not set. You must be stronger than you imagine you can be. You must survive, or I will never exist.
Alright, the last movie on my list may be a bit of a surprise considering that all of the movies so far have been in the 80s and the 90s, but this one is going to be the 1939 classic, The Wizard of Oz. Directed by Victor Fleming, starring Judy Garland, Margaret Hamilton, Frank Morgan, Jack Haley, Ray Bolger, and Burt Lair. Of course, it tells the story of Dorothy, who is living in Kansas, gets sucked up into a tornado, ends up in the strange and magical world of Oz, and has to make her way to the Emerald City in order to get back home. It's just a fun movie, very enjoyable. I love watching it every year when it comes on. It's just one of those classics that has just permeated throughout American culture. Judy is such a charismatic actress in this movie. You just love Dorothy. She's just great. And the interactions between her and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion, they're just great friends, and it's just so nice to be in their presence for, a couple of hours. And it's another one of those movies where you can really see a stark contrast in the hero character from the beginning to the end. Dorothy at the beginning, she wants to leave home, and she grabs Toto and they just run away. And at the end of the movie, what does she say? There's no place like home. It's because over the course of this movie, she's learned that be happy in your environment and what you're doing. Do it to the best of your abilities. I think that's the message anyway.
Why don't you come along with us? We're on our way to see the wizard now, to get him a heart.
And him a brain.
I'm sure he could give you some courage.
So there you have it. That's my top 12 perfect movies that I absolutely love. But what are your top 12 or top 10 or top 5 movies that you feel are perfect? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye, everybody.